Stop buying things recklessly just to appear wealthy. You feel it the moment you pull into the parking lot. That quick glance from your coworker as they walk past your car. Not quite disgust, not quite pity, something in between. Their eyes scan the faded paint, linger on that dent you never bothered fixing, then flick away like they've seen something embarrassing. You catch yourself making excuses in your head before anyone even asks. It is paid off, it runs fine, I don't care about cars. But your stomach tightens anyway because you know what they're thinking. They're doing the math on your life. And the numbers they're calculating are all wrong. 3 spaces over, someone's locking up a brand new BMW, glossy black. The kind that makes a statement before the engine even starts. You've seen this person in meetings, talking about being stretched thin. About needing this next bonus. About how expensive everything is. But their risk carries 2 months of your rent. The research is brutal when you actually look at it. 61% of people earning over $250,000. They drive Hondas, Toyotas, Fords. Regular cars that disappear into any parking lot in America. Not the cars you'd expect, not the cars that announce arrival. Meanwhile, 8% of people making under $100,000 own luxury vehicles. You've been taught to read wealth backwards your entire life. The signals you trust, the markers you use to measure success. The visual shorthand that tells you who is winning, it is all inverted. The guy in the tailored suit with the German sedan. He might be 3 missed paychecks from disaster. The woman in the 15-year-old Camry. She might have more money than everyone in the building combined. But she'll never tell you. And that feeling, that exact physiological response, is the trap. It is the moment where actual wealth starts converting into the appearance of wealth. Where the numbers that matter start shrinking, so the signals other people see can grow. Your nervous system is trying to protect you from social judgment. But it is pushing you toward financial disaster. No words exchanged, but you both know they saw what you drive. And now there is an assumption hanging in the air between you. An assumption about dinners you can afford. You didn't plan for this. You just wanted something that looked right. Something that matched the neighborhood, the job title, the image you've been building for years. And the audience expects consistency. When you show up in designer clothes, people assume the rest of your life matches. They assume you can afford the restaurant they're suggesting, the wedding gift they're expecting. Every status symbol has an opportunity cost measured in decades. The leased BMW represents monthly payments that could have purchased shares of index funds. The designer wardrobe represents a portfolio that wasn't built. The luxury vacation represents compound growth that never started. You're not just spending money, you're spending your future freedom. You're making 6 figures, maybe more. But you're living like you're 1 missed paycheck away from collapse. Because in a way, the visible wealth you've constructed requires constant maintenance. And then there is the target you've painted on yourself. Criminals don't waste time on people who look broke. They focus on visible affluence. The luxury car in the driveway. The designer bags in social media posts. The vacation photos that broadcast exactly when your house is empty. But the real cost isn't just financial. It is social. It is psychological. It is the way your relationships start to warp around money. Friends assume you can cover expenses. Family members expect generosity. You're performing wealth while experiencing scarcity, displaying abundance while feeling constraint. The irony is so complete, it is almost elegant. The very things you bought to signal success are the things preventing you from achieving it. Every status purchase is a vote against your own financial freedom. This is the trap that most people never see until they're already caught. The pursuit of appearing wealthy creates the exact conditions that prevent actual wealth. You're not building a foundation, you're building a facade, and facades require constant maintenance. You've felt it happen in real time. The moment you moved into that nicer neighborhood, the baseline shifted. Suddenly your old spending habits look cheap, not to you, to everyone around you. Your neighbor mentions their kitchen remodel cost 40 grand. Like it is a normal Tuesday conversation. Your kids' friends' parents casually drop that they're doing spring break in Tuscany. Again, the restaurant your new friends pick for dinner has entrees that start at $60. This isn't about keeping up with the Joneses anymore. It is about being absorbed into a spending ecosystem where your previous normal becomes invisible. Research on social comparison confirms what you already know in your gut. Status only exists relative to other people. It is not an absolute measurement, it is a ranking system. And in high inequality environments, that ranking system becomes vicious. Meanwhile, that guy's still driving the old Honda. He has got something you've lost access. Nobody treats him differently because of perceived wealth. Nobody expects him to cover more than his share. Nobody resents him for having more. Nobody's doing the math on what his house must have cost. He moves through the world without that constant low-grade evaluation. That social invisibility isn't a weakness. It is a form of freedom that money literally cannot buy. And here is the part that really stings, the relationship paradox. Research on high net worth individuals reveals something you've probably already started to feel. Increased power paired with decreased trust. Every new friendship comes with a question you can't answer. Do they like me? Or do they like what I have? Do they want to spend time with me? Or do they want access to my resources? You can't know. You can never really know. The filter is always there now. The person who looks middle class while being quietly wealthy never faces this problem. Their friendships formed without that filter. Nobody was calculating their net worth during the first conversation. Nobody was positioning themselves for future advantage. The relationships are clean, based on who they are, not what they have. You used to have that before the visible upgrades, before the status signals, before everyone could see what you were worth. The Millionaire Next Door researchers created a framework that explains exactly what is happening. They separated people into two categories: prodigious accumulators of wealth and underaccumulators of wealth. PAWs and UAWs. The categories have nothing to do with your income, everything to do with your behavior. A janitor making $50,000 can be more of a PAW than a doctor making $700,000. The formula is brutal in its simplicity. Multiply your age by your pre-tax household income, divide by 10. That is where you should be. A 40-year-old making $150,000 should have $600,000 in net worth. If you're below that threshold, you're an underaccumulator. UAWs aren't stupid. They're often highly educated professionals in demanding careers. They understand compound interest intellectually. They just don't practice it behaviorally. Because every purchase has become a signal. Every choice is a message. Better car than the neighbor, better watch than the colleague, better vacation than the sibling. Researchers call this the better than theory. Each financial decision is an attempt to establish superiority, to prove you've made it, to show you belong in this tier. These are million-dollar choices, not because each one costs $1 million, because if you hadn't made them, you'd have over $1 million. The original research used cigarettes as an example, and the math is visceral. One couple smoked 3 packs a day for 46 years. The cumulative cost exceeded the value of their home by $33,000. But status purchases work the same way. The difference between a $30,000 car and a $70,000 car, invested over 20 years, is the difference between comfortable and wealthy. You know this. You've done the math. You've just been caught in a system where not making the status purchase feels like losing. And it is not an accident. The programming that makes this feel normal starts before you can drive. Stanley and Denko documented it precisely. Young people are indoctrinated with a specific belief. People who have money spend lavishly. And if you don't show it, you don't have it. That is the exact wording: indoctrinated, not educated, not informed, programmed. The delivery system is everywhere. Television shows you glamorous lifestyles on repeat. Social media feeds you curated consumption 24/7. Advertising promises that purchases will transform your identity. The message never changes. Rich people look rich. If you want to be seen as successful, you need to display success through consumption. Buy the watch, lease the car, wear the logo. Signal constantly or disappear. This belief is demonstrably false. The data proves it, but the effects are completely real. Someone who internalizes this narrative will spend their entire income maintaining appearances. They'll finance a lifestyle that signals wealth while systematically destroying their actual net worth. They'll reach 55 with a closet full of luxury goods and a retirement account that can't sustain them for 5 years. The person who rejects this narrative builds wealth in silence. They invest while others consume. They compound while others display. They reach 55 with options the visible spender will never access. Different programming, different outcome, same income. The only variable is whether you believed the message. Something is shifting now. Bain & Company's 2024 luxury report shows it. Affluent consumers increasingly prioritizing longevity and craftsmanship over conspicuous consumption. Stealth wealth has become modern social currency. A 2024 Accenture survey found 52% of global shoppers now prefer influencers who showcase practical luxury rather than aspirational excess. After Succession ended, searches for Loro Piana spiked globally. Not because of flashy logos, because of the opposite. Wealth that only people who truly understand it can recognize. This isn't a fashion trend. It is a recognition that visible wealth carries costs invisible wealth avoids. And those costs show up in every financial interaction you'll ever have. A car dealer treats someone in a Honda Civic completely differently than someone in a Mercedes. A contractor quotes differently based on the neighborhood they're driving into. Warren Buffett noted, he never worried about being overcharged because nobody knew he was wealthy. His modest appearance gave him negotiating leverage that flashy consumption would have eliminated. Service providers, salespeople, contractors, they all calibrate their prices based on perceived ability to pay. Looking wealthy invites premium pricing. Looking middle class receives standard rates. The difference accumulates across thousands of transactions over a lifetime. Here is the protocol. You stop negotiating your appearance with other people's expectations. That is the first boundary. When someone asks what you drive, you say the model without apologizing. When family asks why you haven't upgraded your house, you change the subject instead of explaining your investment strategy. You're not hiding wealth, you're refusing to perform it. There is a difference. Performance requires an audience. Refusal requires none. The pricing protocol works like this. You walk into any negotiation looking like you need the deal. Car dealerships, real estate agents, contractors, they all run the same calculation. They look at your clothes, your watch, your car in the parking lot, and they assign you a number. That number determines which price sheet they pull out. The person who shows up in a luxury vehicle gets quoted 20% higher on the same kitchen remodel. The person who shows up in a 10-year-old sedan gets the real number. You're not being deceptive, you're letting them deceive themselves. Their assumptions become your leverage. The employment boundary is more delicate. Your coworkers think you're one bad month away from trouble. Your boss thinks you're hungry. Your clients think you're reasonable. All of these perceptions give you room to maneuver. The moment you show up in something expensive, those perceptions collapse. Suddenly, your coworkers wonder why you're complaining about workload if you're already set. Your boss questions whether you're really committed. Your clients start resenting your fees because they think you don't need the money. You lose negotiating power the second they stop believing you need what they're offering. The protocol here is simple. You maintain the appearance of need while operating from the security of not needing. That gap between appearance and reality is where your power lives. The family boundary requires the most discipline. Your adult children don't know the full picture. They see a middle-class lifestyle. They assume there is no safety net. So they build their own. Research shows this clearly. The more money parents visibly have, the less their adult children accumulate on their own. It is not about withholding support. It is about withholding the knowledge that support is guaranteed. Your kids work harder when they think they have to. They make better decisions when they believe consequences are real. You can still help strategically quietly in ways that don't broadcast your capacity. But the moment they know you're sitting on serious money, their internal calculation changes. They stop building their own foundation because they're waiting for yours. The psychological protocol is the hardest to explain, but the most important to maintain. Every visible purchase delivers a spike of satisfaction that fades within weeks. The new car feels incredible for a month, then it is just your car. The watch impresses people for a while, then nobody notices. Each of these purchases burns capital for temporary emotional returns that disappear. But the number in your account that nobody sees, that provides constant background security. You know you could handle any emergency. You know you could walk away from any situation that becomes intolerable. You know your future is protected, that knowledge doesn't fade, it doesn't adapt away. It sits in the back of your mind during every decision you make, every risk you take, every boundary you enforce. The defensive advantage of looking ordinary is that nobody targets you. Criminals look for visible wealth. Opportunistic relatives look for visible wealth. Salespeople look for visible wealth. Lawyers in divorce proceedings look for visible wealth. When you look like everyone else, you disappear from all of those targeting systems. You move through the world without painting a target on yourself. That is not paranoia. That is basic operational security. The protocol isn't about deprivation. It is about sovereignty. You decide what you spend based on what actually improves your life, not based on what signals status to strangers. You maintain relationships that aren't distorted by financial inequality. You preserve your children's motivation. You keep your negotiating position intact. You protect your psychological security from hedonic adaptation. And you do all of this by simply refusing to perform wealth for an audience that doesn't matter. The cost is that some people will underestimate you. That is not a cost, that is the entire point. Your sleep changes first, not because you suddenly have more money, but because you stopped performing wealth for an audience that doesn't pay your bills. The person maintaining the display never gets that back. Every January brings another cycle of purchases to prove they're still winning. The performance has no intermission. You opted out, your identity isn't hostage to what you consume anymore. That is not frugality, that is severance. That Civic in the parking lot represents something the people judging it will never decode. It is not about the car. It is about refusing to let social approval dictate your resource allocation. It is choosing compound growth over performing status. The coworkers who feel superior when they see that dented bumper are the same people who'll be working at 70, because their identity required constant financial bloodletting to maintain. Looking poor isn't a sacrifice. It is a strategic position that pays across every dimension. It makes you invisible to criminals who target displayed affluence. It keeps your relationships clean of financial distortion. It preserves your leverage in every negotiation. The cost. Some people underestimate you. Some people assume you have less than you do.